up when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are in our face. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are in our face. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe.
I'm ReneMarie, and this is going to be an awesome show. Of course, Judy does a phenomenal job in pulling shows together. And this was like one that we weren't even supposed to do the week of because my daughter was pregnant. And she actually delivered 3 weeks early. So as soon as Samantha gave birth, Judy was on a roll, booking a show. And she came up with a wonderful philosophy on how your mate supports. What's it called, Judy? What's the actual title? You got it?
It is. We're discussing how my mate assisted with the stroke, aphasia, and most of all, the insurance.
Yes, yes. So it's going to be a wonderful topic today because, you know, everything always stems back to love. That's our philosophy. And whether it's a husband or wife or partner or your family or mother or daughter or cousin or friend or whatever it is, you need that support to recover. And love is the answer. That's why this show is called Love is the Answer. We do want to send our condolences out to Haley, Justin Bieber's wife. She just suffered a TIA. And I just want you to stop for a minute and think how that really resonates with us, because we're always talking about it could happen to anybody at any time. And for Justin Bieber and his wife Haley, who people would look at and think they have the world, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And it really is a scare because you don't know. Strokes can happen to anybody in any specific time. So I'm gonna tweet. I just heard about it this morning when I woke up. So I am gonna send a tweet and to Haley and to Justin to give our regards. And we hope that anything we could do, just show our support the way we're saying here today on the show, that we all need support. We want them to know that although we're not happy about it, they're now a part of our family. You know, we hope that they will join with us in making the awareness of strokes and aphasia really on the forefront of their minds as well as on the forefront of everyone else's minds. It's really important because 80% of strokes can be prevented. Now this we're not sure about. I think this is what the Good Morning America said, that after a stroke, symptoms diagnosed with a blood clot on the brain. So a blood clot on the brain cannot be one of the smoking or the high blood pressure, so that's something that can't be prevented. But what is important is to know what to do about it. And from what they said in Good Morning America, because that's where I heard it, she did do the right thing, and she went to the hospital ASAP. So she knew that she needed help and she was going to the hospital. Most people would, some people I should say, just let it go and just think it's a blip in their life, you know. And I do the same thing, you know, when I get up and my neck hurts me, you know, I all of a sudden I become fearful, but then I think, let me wait and see. And there's got to be boundaries with that, you know. I think they said on the Good Morning America this morning, if it's sudden, if it's severe, if it's all of a sudden, if you have a pain or you can't see or your eyes go blurry, you know, we're just here to educate you, and we hope that you will educate yourself. And you know what? Every time I've ever been to the hospital, or I've called the ambulance, or someone's called the ambulance for me, or we've called the ambulance for somebody else, the main thing is they'd rather be safe than sorry. They'd rather be safe than sorry. So we want to send our condolences out to Justin and Haley Beaver once again, and let us know if there's anything we could do for you. So thank you for everybody for, you know, watching our show, and really, you know, I think after 7 years, we've done a wonderful job in
we're on our eighth year,
bringing awareness to everybody, and this show is mainly because of Judy. That's the only reason this show happens, you know. But today we have that wonderful show, and like I said, I called it "Love is the Answer" because it is. Love is about everything, and Judy is going to read the intro that she wrote, her press, and then we'll get into talking, the conversation with our both return guests, Eddie and Deanna, and Josh and Debbie. We are so blessed to have you. And Jim, hi Jim in the back office. You can't see Jim, but he's in the back office. You talking, Jim?
Yes, I said good morning. Good morning.
You're low, Jim, just so you know, we can't hear you. He's turning it up. Okay. He gave the thumbs up. Okay, Judy, go ahead so we could start the show.
I just would like first to mention be fast. Those are the symptoms. B for balance, E for eyes, F for your face if your face is distorted, A for arms if you can't extend your arms out, speech if it's mumbled or not clear, that's a sign, and time is of the essence. The faster you get help, the better it will be. We are very proud to welcome back our guests, Debbie and Josh Orlean and Deanna and Eddie Dhyne. Josh's family had a history of strokes and heart attacks, and he suffered first from stroke and then a heart attack. Josh became a vegan and took care about his eating habits and thought he was in better health, and then he suffered a second stroke. His wife, Debbie, will share with our audience today his symptoms leading up to the recent stroke, his hospital experience, physical, occupational, speech, and home therapies, and how she assisted him. Deanna was visiting her sister in Connecticut when she was found unconscious on her sister's bathroom floor. Rushed to the hospital by ambulance, the staff did not diagnose her stroke, and precious time was lost, and she did not get the clot-busting medicine needed. After several transfers to various hospitals, she finally started her physical and speech therapies. Eddie worked closely with her to get her the help needed, but they both faced struggles and obstacles, overcoming her road to recovery, and the fact that insurance was not covering the therapy she desperately needed. This interesting and loving discussion will show the deep love and caring and moving forward they assisted their mates with, and shine a light on the fact that insurance should not be the deciding factor in recovery. And now let's welcome our guests, Josh and Debbie, and Eddie and Deanna.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, both of you. Like I said, in the Zoom green room, you're part of our family, and we'd always like to keep our family coming on so that we could keep track of their recovery and how it's going and the struggles that it is. Because, most people, I always say that, but I should say that, some people, when somebody has a stroke, they have empathy and stuff, but then life goes on for everybody, and so that's why this show is so important, because it's the two of you, whether it's your partner, like I said before, your husband, your wife, your cousin, your sister, no matter who it is, your friend, your daughter, like Judy was with her father, that really goes through the grinds with you, and it's forever. When a stroke happens, it changes your life, I believe, emotionally and physically for the rest of your life. Whether it's, and sometimes it's in a good way because you realize how valuable time is and how life is, but then there's those struggles that we all are going to talk about today that that you go through. So let's start with Debbie and Josh and Debbie. Tell us first of all, let's start from the topic of the stories, the show, and then we'll go backwards into your stories. How do you help each other? What is the power in unity?
I would say communication. It has to be communication, because if we're feeling something and we don't express it, it just gets held, we'll hold on to it. And give us an example of that, Debbie. What would be something that you need to talk about? Like, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was in rehab for 4 weeks.
This is after your second round of stroke.
Right.
Okay.
And you get food delivered right to your bed in the hospital. And I was expecting, when I came home, it was going back to the real world. And Debbie had to cook. And I wanted it to be the way I wanted it. And I'm vegan. And Debbie isn't. And if it wasn't perfect, I would ask for her, like I would, in life before the stroke, I would get up and 2 steps, I'd grab the seasonings that I want, the silverware I want, anything I want. This time I have to communicate to Debbie. It caused a lot of friction. We hardly ever fight. We have great communication skills, but we hit probably the toughest time in our marriage. At one point, Debbie had to sit down with me and say, "I just have to tell you, this is not working." And we've done a lot of work on ourselves, and I was able to listen to her. I knew what she was talking about. I was a real curmudgeon. I was so impatient, and it was awful. And actually, we had at one point, Debbie had to go sleep in another room because her sleep was constantly being interrupted, and it was a sad time for me to be in bed by myself. But that communication that we have deals with even the toughest times. And it has me, and I'm sure Debbie also, appreciate what we have in our relationship, that our relationship is so strong that we get through even the toughest situations.
Yeah. And Debbie, got to give kudos to you, because sometimes, we the people, the caregivers, right, Judy?
Yeah.
They don't want to say anything because they have empathy. They don't want to hurt their partner, right? So we got to give you kudos for very tenderly and generously, and did you think about like the perfect timing for that? Did you not just splurt it out, you know?
I was running around like a chicken without my head, because every time I turned around, Josh needed something. I need this. And, you know, I can equate the feeling and the situation to when you have a new baby. And, you know, you have to, that baby comes first. Yes. And, you know, everything else comes last. So he came first and came first and came first, which meant I came last. I didn't eat. I was making his food. I would be starving, but I wasn't eating because he needed something. And so what I realized was I had to respect the fact that I also was in on this. It wasn't just about him, but you know, like, and the example of the people in the plane, you know, when the flight attendants say, you know, if anything happens and you have a baby or a child next to you, take the oxygen first.
Right.
So that was, you know, that's huge that I wasn't taking the oxygen first.
Right.
And I got, you know, once we had that conversation, which was life altering, I was able to say, if I felt like I was starving and he was wanting this and wanting that, I'd actually have to communicate, can you wait a few minutes?
Right.
Because otherwise everything was immediate, right. But it really wasn't immediate.
Right.
And then I had to really communicate that, you know, wait, I have to eat. I gotta eat something. So it really made a big difference.
Deanna and Eddie, what about what was the strengths and the struggles that you both work on or experience, and did you have any communication struggles?
We never really had communication struggles, only because we just didn't. Sometimes it's hard for her, especially when she first had the stroke, to communicate what she needed. In the beginning, I looked at myself as her caregiver, but I don't call myself that anymore. I'm her partner. She didn't just have the stroke. I had the stroke with her. It's been a real battle, but we're here for each other. If she needs something, if I need something. Back to what Debbie was saying, though, you do need to take care of yourself in order to be a good partner, and a lot of times that falls to the wayside because you're worried about your partner. We moved down to Florida to give Deanna a better opportunity to be outside all year long, as opposed to only 4 or 5 months out of the year. So we're concentrating on just basically her getting better exercise. She rides her bike every day. It's besides the fact that we moved to Florida, she actually, even with the stroke and the non-use of one arm, she still packed our whole entire house up in Long Island with her and her friends while I was down here working and getting us a house. And she's been constantly moving, even though, you know, she's disabled partially. I know. I don't know how else to say it, but
she's got weaknesses. We all have weaknesses, right? We all have weaknesses. Is that a good verbiage, Deanna?
Yeah. I don't really look at her as being weak, though, because this is our 6th year going into this now. And she's never once said, I can't do this, or went through a depressive state. She just keeps pushing forward. So if she's going to push forward, there's no reason why I can't push forward. That's, you know, we're going to be working on this for the rest of our lives, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Oh
I don't know what else really to say about.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So what would you both recommend, Debbie and Josh? What would you recommend to somebody like that has had a stroke, and how would you recommend to them to move forward, to navigate through it? Because this is new. Most times when people have their first stroke, it's like out of the blue for everybody. Nobody ever expected to be in this family that we have. They never expected to suffer a stroke. And like I said, strokes happen to anybody in any specific age. So how would you recommend to navigate through it, Debbie and Josh?
Don't give up.
Well, to think of it as a roller coaster.
Yeah.
That there are those good days, there are not good days, there are good weeks, there are not good weeks.
Yep.
And how do you navigate it? The old saying, one day at a time, and sometimes if it's not one day at a time, it's an hour at a time, it's a minute at a time in life, those kind of statements. But how do we navigate it? It took time. I reference the idea of having a new baby. You don't all of a sudden know how to do everything and what has to come first, second, and third, and it takes a little while. So it takes a while in the beginning.
So I guess before I forget, because I always forget, I guess what you're saying is to allow yourself the time to figure out how it's going to work for both of you, because each situation is different, right?
Right, and because this was the second stroke and the first one was 6 years ago, very different strokes. Apparently this one was not as considered as bad, but it has affected Josh much more than the last one. The last one was, he had the aphasia, he couldn't speak, but his mobility was good. So we immediately went to outpatient PT and OT, and he was able to walk, and the other things came back. This is very, very, very different because this affected his mobility and balance, and it's different. And we were comparing them. That was the difficult. It was like, wait, what is this? This is
right.
Last time was like a piece of cake compared to this.
I have something to add. There's also, I found 3 incredible websites, Facebook groups, that are, I think, worldwide. And I could give them to you so you could pass them on.
Absolutely.
So there's a wealth of information. The person who started 2 of them, he had a stroke 18 years ago. And so he's also compiled a huge library of videos of him speaking what he's discovered. And there are loads of books that I'm reading. I love information because I get a better understanding of what I'm facing and what I've been through. Aside from a relationship, there's a bigger world that you can access that would make a big difference.
What are the sites?
Well, one is called Stroke Buddies. Then there's something on spasticity, which is a horrible word.
Stroke spasticity?
It's just spasticity. It's one of the words. Again, I will provide that for you.
Yeah,
I might have both.
I think I seen your photograph on them.
Okay.
So, God.
No, I was going to say that's a good point, is to share with the family that once they kind of get settled, after the initial experience, that this start. Say it again, Judy.
Trauma.
Yeah, that's perfect. The initial trauma, that they should reach out, and I would recommend just reaching out for education and knowledge. But I believe that each story is so different that you need to figure out, like, maybe a little piece of this works for us and a little piece of that works for us, but don't put all your fish in one basket, because you have to figure out, like Josh found 3 websites that are Facebook groups that are good for him. There's a million Facebook groups. So just figure out which one navigates and works for you, rather than just figuring like this is my whole world, because there are different areas of education that will help your specific stroke type. Like Debbie said, each stroke was different. Right in your family, each stroke was different. Joshua had different strokes. So
I just want to add what spasticity is. It's when you have a stroke and let's say it's your arm freezes up. If you don't get them to exercise your arm, and this happened in my dad's case, he had a hemorrhagic stroke, and I was exercising the side of his body that was paralyzed, and I was stopped, and they put his arm in a brace and it locked up to his chest. And I was very upset about it because I was exercising his arm as many hours as I could when I visited, and I was there 6 hours a day, and they stopped me from doing that.
Wow, that's all. You were incredible.
That is what it is. It's freezing up of either your arm. It could happen to your leg.
Yeah. So Eddie and Deanna, what would you be your recommendations to people that have experienced a stroke to figure out like how to navigate through it?
If it doesn't work, try something different. My recovery is never the same. Most of it is, but little things I do it for like 4 or 5 weeks, and then my body gets used to it, and then I have to change a little bit, something.
Meaning different types of exercises and, activities. She's, once we stopped going to actual physical therapy at a facility, we joined the gym, and that
Best thing ever.
was the best thing ever. We actually had a trainer at the gym that worked for a physical therapist during the day, and she was going to college. She was just about to graduate. So she was very instrumental in the perfect swimming exercises to start with, as well as the gym equipment. And then from there, we just kept adding on. And while we're walking around the gym, Deanna would see another machine that she would want to try. And that's how we just kept building on it. We also got her a 3-wheel bike because she can't ride her 2-wheel anymore. And that works out great because then she can ride her bike anytime she wants. Where we moved to, there's a town center that she could ride her bike every day to. There's a gym there, a pool, the whole bit. So we just keep trying to push forward and do what we can.
Eddie, the reason that you had to go to a gym was that the insurance wasn't covering her physical, and they told you that they weren't going to cover it. But your determination in getting assistance for Deanna was extraordinary. You said, okay, it's not going to be covered. I'm moving forward and I'm going to get what she needs. And you went to every extreme to do it, and I admire that.
Well, thank you. The thing with the insurance was every year they allow you 30 visits to physical therapy. You still have to pay a copay. And what happens is when you go for one visit, you go for a half an hour of speech therapy, a half an hour of occupational therapy, and then 45 minutes of physical therapy. Well, right there, that counts as 3
Right.
sessions, even though you only went there for 1 day. So if you go 2 or 3 times a week, you have a month's worth of, at best, you maybe get a month's worth of rehab at the facility. For a lot cheaper, you can join a really good gym. We joined the gym that also had a pool, so that worked. And then when COVID hit, we had to just do stuff at home. We bought something called a Bosu ball, which is just a balancing. It's kind of like a half a yoga ball with a platform that you stand on, you hold on to something, and you balance. That's done a lot of good for us. What else?
The CBD oil.
CBD oil has worked very well. Rest, when she needs rest, she takes the rest.
That's really important. Rest is a big key, because I used to think like I got to go. But I never thought that part of my healing came in the resting time. It was almost like, you're out doing things, but then you have to breathe and rest and give yourself body the opportunity to shift and do whatever it's got to do to set you for the next day. So I commend you. That's Rest is really important.
I saw a video where the founder of the Facebook groups was talking with a doctor who had a stroke when he was very, very young. And he was talking about how he was watching a little baby, a newborn, and they just slept all the time because they were doing the hard work of generating new neuronal pathways. Very hard work. It makes them need to sleep. I was making myself wrong because I want to go, but I get really tired. And after a stroke, there's healing going on in the brain. Yeah. And so when I heard him say that, I was able to give myself a lot more time to take care of myself, because there are times when I am exhausted. I am with a stationary bicycle. I was told to do a half an hour a day. I walk a half hour a day also around the house. And then we still have physical and occupational therapy, which they're cutting back now, and we'll have a time where we will not have that. But I have a whole list of things for my therapist. But yeah, the fatigue does come with this territory, and it's challenging. But
how are you doing, Josh, with the insurance?
Well, it's Debbie was a special ed teacher, so it gave her some amazing coverage for us. And we're also older than 65, so we have Medicare. So we have great coverage. And the thing is, I'm actually looking forward to a time where I will now be applying what I've learned and not having to go to another location, which we'll do later. So I have so many tools from what we've done so far.
Okay. So you have Medicare. They told me 10 visits per year. Is that you too, or?
We also have NISHIP, which is Empire Secondary. So maybe this secondary picks it up.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, because he's been going consistently for 9 months. Although there was a period at the end of last year where they said, we can't do December because you've had enough and you've got to start over again in January. Mm-hmm. But I know our secondary is really good.
What's the name of that again, Debbie? The secondary?
Empire
Blue
Cross. NISHIP is
New York
so it's in New York State insurance, and it's supposed to be really good. A lot of teachers have it. Also, we did go to acupuncture for a while until Omicron not acupuncture. Yeah, acupuncture. No. Yeah, acupuncture. Right, the needles. And they put all these needles
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I had them.
Brain? He got it in the brain, in the head?
Yeah.
And he said, oh yeah, these are big needles. So, you put the big needles in his head and then other needles all over. And we went consistently twice a week. Again, no guarantee as to what the effect of that was. We kind of felt like it was probably doing something. And then Omicron kind of came along and we said, no, let's cut this out. So it's just the PT and OT.
Yeah, I had that too. And then, what was the insurance? Your insurance?
United Healthcare?
Yes,
Yeah.
United Healthcare.
no more.
They gave us a couple of visits and that was it. I think maybe half a dozen. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's very sad because, we always talk about insurances, and of course we all have insurance and we all have an income to pay, for whatever we need. I mean, most of what we need. But how about those people that don't have insurance and don't have jobs and they have the insurance and then it runs out and then they don't have the income to do what we're all doing to better our situations. And what about the other thing? Like we're talking about having support, the two of you, the four of you all help each other. What about somebody that's alone? I mean, it's just all those things that people don't get the proper care that they need. It breaks our heart. And, we're trying to figure out how to navigate through that, Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. Well, God bless Google and what else? Facebook.
Yep.
And YouTube, because there are so much information there. I have a Facebook, a YouTube page that I pay $5 a month. It's called Rehab HQ. That was started by a physical therapist because she was tired of.
I have that.
Rehab what?
I have that.
HQ?
Rehab HQ. Talk to us about what they do on that, Josh.
Well, they have. She's constantly generating new videos of different topics, and she's very good. Dr. Tara Tobias, I think, down in Florida.
How do you spell Tobias?
Tobias.
Tobias.
And HQ standing for headquarters. So rehab headquarters, and the riches that are available through what she puts together gives you a lot of information that's practically free. And on the Facebook groups that including the one on spasticity and the stroke buddies, that they generate ongoing new videos where he's interviewing doctors or sharing their experiences, and that's for free. That's
Josh, how did you get on it? It's on.
YouTube.
How did you said you had to pay for it. So how did you get on? How did you know about it? How did you get on? And how would the audience get on?
Well, through those Facebook groups I joined, I contribute a lot of information about nutrition, which is something that we've covered.
Right, but you said you paid to get on to Rehab HQ?
Well, for that, because it's a business. It's a physical therapist that set that up. And that's
Okay, so you go on Google and you go to, let's say, Rehab HQ. It's on YouTube?
It's on YouTube, but in order to access it, there is a fee that they charge $5 a month.
That's not bad.
No, $5 a month isn't a lot of money, But I mean, I go right to like you said, Josh. There's so much information on Google and Facebook, but there's also scammers on Facebook and Google, and we want to make sure that people, especially when they're experiencing a trauma in a stroke, that they're not taken advantage of as well. Yeah. So it's good to go to Facebook where there's a lot of people streaming, because if there is a scam, somebody will bring it to the attention.
I also want to mention that if you get a phone call from Medicare doesn't call you on the phone, they write you. They don't call you. I had a phone call recently from Medicare and also from Social Security. They're both scams.
Yeah. It's go ahead, Josh.
How I found out about HQ, Rehab HQ, was I got in getting involved with their Facebook page, the Stroke Buddies. I created a relationship with some of the key players, and one of them told me about Rehab HQ. And when I checked it out, I was really pleased.
That's good.
So they will tell you if something is bad.
Yep. Yep.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we want to share with everybody why Deanna is wearing her mask. Deanna is just tested positive from COVID. And, we want to let everybody know that's why she's wearing a mask. She's protecting everybody and herself as well from any, illnesses, continue effects. How are you doing, Deanna, with your COVID?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We just want to let everybody know, because in case they're questioning, I think nowadays though, masks are just a part of life. I don't wear a mask anymore when I'm outside or when I go into a huge area, that doesn't have many people in it. But certainly if I'm going into a small location that has a lot of people in it, I'm just going to wear it as a protective measure, And
also to protect your grandchildren who
yes,
you see
protect
so
my
often.
grandchildren. Because they don't have the shots. If you can get the shot, there's extenuating circumstances where people can't get the shot, but so that I protect them as well. So
better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah. How is COVID? I know that both of you touched on this a little bit with your acupuncture, and then you stopped going because of COVID. Let's talk about how COVID has affected your world, especially with recovery.
Well, the gyms, when we switched over to the gyms and the gyms closed, we had to be resourceful at home. That was one of the big things. Also being extra careful of not going to certain places, protecting ourselves if we went somewhere, being very selective on where we went. It's definitely had an impact. Yeah. But it's impacted everybody, strokes or not.
Has it affected, and I'll ask Debbie and Josh this question too, dual questions. Has it affected both of you mentally? Like, has it, because I know that socialization is so important, especially coming in communication with people. I'm a people person. I miss the communication with people, the one-on-one. I love this because this is a new world for us, Zoom. It does have some benefits, like we could all come together in 2 seconds via, we could see each other. We're not on the phone. Like, there is some added benefits, but it also, I miss the interaction with people. So has it, Eddie and Deanna, tell us yours, and then we'll ask Josh and Debbie the same two questions.
I'm a a people person also, but we had a lot of outside
Events?
6 feet.
We'd have a lot of, not a lot, but we've had some of our friends come over and sitting around the driveway, 6, 7, 8 feet apart, and
Yeah.
just being able to stay in contact with people.
Yeah.
That's why 2 years later, I'm very surprised that Deanna got it though, because we have been super, super careful. And it just goes to show, just like a stroke, anybody could get it.
Yeah. And what were signs, Deanna? Why did you know you had it? How did you know you had it, Deanna?
I had a sore throat, so I took the test, and it came at COVID.
Right.
So I texted him. He said, "Take another test." So I did, and it came back COVID again. I'm like, ooh.
As long as you weren't hospitalized and couldn't breathe, like, you know.
No.
Yeah.
How long ago did this happen, Deanna?
This is the fifth day.
Right. And you haven't tested positive at all, Eddie?
No.
No. It's so odd because my daughter who is pregnant, who just gave birth, right before she gave birth, she had an encounter, with somebody that had COVID, and she tested positive. Her husband never tested positive, and they lived with me, and I never tested positive. So it's so interesting the way that who can get it, who gets it, who doesn't, when you're in close contact. It
Right.
just cracks me up.
This is the closest we've been in 5 days. Because once we knew she had it.
That's why she's wearing a mask.
Yeah, and I had to not get it so I could take care of both of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're thankful that she had it pretty bad for 2 days, but not bad enough to go to the hospital or the doctor.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
You just sparked a thought for me in that conversation. When you said, and I can't get it because I have to take care of her. That's very interesting because I've had a couple of cancers in my life, and I'm okay, I'm fine, and I'm constantly getting tested for different things, but I'm very aware that I can't get sick.
Yeah.
It's a very, again, relating it back to babies. You have a baby, and all of a sudden, you go, wow, something can't happen to me. Now, obviously, he's not a baby, but it's that there's that thought of, well, I can't get sick. I can't get COVID. I can't get cancer again because how's that going to work?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting dynamic.
There is.
An interesting thought.
So Josh and Debbie, share with us how COVID has affected your world.
Okay.
Well, we had a very large circle of friends and associates that we got to be with physically, and this shut that down completely. No more movie theaters, no more out to restaurants to order in. So our social world changed dramatically. We counted upon Zoom to do courses that we do, to get together with friends, dear friends and family. God bless that. God bless the streaming services. We regularly are moved to tears or laughing our asses off. We watched Mrs. Mizell last night, and it's just the things that get us moved to tears and laughter. And but and plus winter, like I didn't realize how sensitive I would become to the cold. It is a nightmare. We had to go shopping for a special electric blanket with dual buttons, so she'll have it set on one side. I'll have my side set differently. Clothing like this is a heavy sweater. The cold, in particular, makes me so jealous of my friends who live down in Florida or Texas. So
Yeah, we are jealous.
I know.
We understand, you know, if we could do it the way we really, you know, if I really would want to it. Because we have the perfect little retirement house. And
Where you are now.
Yeah, we're in Huntington. And, you know, to go down 3-4 months, my friends in Bonita Springs. So, yeah, it sounds wonderful. But in terms of COVID, yeah, as Josh said, we take certain courses, seminars, and so we have a large group of friends that we do Zoom with. I will say there is an aspect of coming out of COVID that dawned on me when I was on a Zoom call with some friends, and people were talking about, you know, it looks like COVID's almost, you know, like almost over. And now, have you planned any trips? Oh, yeah, this one's planned a trip to Paris. Maybe they'll get to go. This one will go here. This one will go there. And I said, okay, I am not a jealous person, but I'm so jealous. I'm like, I'm happy for you. But I'm like, okay, it appears like people's lives are now, you know, going into restaurants and doing all of that.
But Debbie, you can go on, even, you don't have to go to Paris, but you could go somewhere.
No, I understand, but there's a limit to how we can do anything.
Yeah.
And
we have to be careful. You know, we have to live our lives more conscious of who we interact with. Like I said, you know, when I go into a little store, I'm going to wear a mask. You know, what was the country that always wore a mask? China?
Yeah.
China.
Asia.
You know, we always we used to think they were crazy when they, you know, when I used to look at them on TV, you know, that they were always wearing a mask. But the truth is that that's my world now. You know, I'm going to wear a mask when I could possibly be in a large area. I mean, I look at the basketball tournaments on TV now, and I see 50,000 people jumping around, hollering, screaming, and they're not wearing any masks. I did notice, though, that this young boy was at one of these tournaments I was looking at yesterday, and he had a mask on, which was comforting to me because he doesn't have a vaccination. So it was comforting to me to know that the parent was a little bit conscious of that. But it just scares me that are we out of it? Are we not out of it? So it's up to us now to be responsible, I believe, anyway.
I don't know, but they're saying that the masks don't work anyway, even though we're wearing it. They're saying it doesn't work.
They work.
They have to work.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I'm just saying. I mean, you know what? Maybe they don't protect you 100%, but
There's some protection.
they're going to cut you down on breathing out. I mean, your air as well, and ingesting.
And what about these people who wear their mask under their nose?
Okay, but what about the doctors who does the surgery with the mask?
Yep. Hospitals have been wearing masks forever.
Many.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever been without it, especially the surgeons.
Yeah.
So there's a piece of coming, I want to say, out of COVID, where people are, you know, feeling freer. And I know down in Florida, our friends say, you know, everybody's out, everybody's inside the restaurant, outside the restaurant. It's like, you know, a lot of people not wearing masks. And our daughter lives in Texas, and that's a whole other COVID story. But
They wear masks or they don't?
They don't.
In Texas, they don't.
No. So what I was aware of in thinking about or listening to people talk about, how, they're planning this and planning that. It's not that we can't do anything, but I felt like, okay, you may think COVID's over for you, but in our world, we're in the stroke world.
Yeah.
And our world we're not coming out of it yet. I want to say yet, because there's some hope there. But, even whatever we do, Josh walks with a walker, one very, very, very slow step at a time. So whatever we do.
I wonder if we're considered compromise. I mean, I don't think I'm compromised because I am far out of it. I think my body is grounded. I try to take care of myself. That's what I'm doing for Lent this year. I'm consciously taking extra care of myself to with rest and sleep and looking at my life and all that kind of stuff. But are we compromised? I mean, our bodies are probably compromised because you right? I mean, Josh, Tina, do you feel compromised, your body compromised because you've had a stroke?
Oh, yeah.
And you, Debbie, as well, because you had cancer.
Well, yeah. I mean, between cancer and stroke, we kind of cover a couple of bases here.
Yeah.
And Josh also had a heart attack.
Me.
Didn't you?
Right. Well, 2 months after the first stroke, Josh had a heart attack. So we've had our share. But what's interesting is that 12 years ago, I was going through chemo, and Josh had to be there for me. But I'm looking at a time sequence also. That was only a certain amount of time. We're kind of surpassing that amount of time where I had surgery and chemo and all that. But, it's a balancing. I'm here for him, he's here for me. And that's
the way it should be.
Right.
So it's after 11, and I always want to give our guests the opportunity to have the last, what would your last words to the world be? If you need a few minutes, or who wants to go first on sharing, you can, all four of you could take an opportunity to share your comments to the world, especially about our topic today, the support.
I think for me, I would like to share the piece of making it workable is to have an understanding and compassion for what the other person is going through. And I'm also on a Facebook page called Caregiver Wives of Stroke Survivors. It's only women. Sorry, but it's only women, and it's from all around the world. And I see situations where the stroke survivor is so angry and so nasty and so horrible to their caregiver, and that's just deeply concerning. So I'm just grateful for having a compassionate and understanding relationship.
I have a thought difference before Josh goes, or whoever wants to go next. Judy, we should do a show on caregivers, the different dynamics between women and men.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
Right? I mean, men bring to the table different things and women bring to the table different things. And how do they work? And where do we get the other piece? Where do we get, and Josh and Debbie's, where do we get the male support for Josh and for Deanna and Eddie? Where do we get the female? So we should really do a show on that. We'd love to invite you both back to talk about that, because it's all about conversation. It's all about making awareness to people, because each story is so vibrant and different. So that's what I'm thinking. So who wants to go next?
Well, I'm going to say support, caring, a positive attitude, and working together is essential.
Yeah.
And I think it will make your marriage stronger. Or whoever you're supporting, whether it's a mate, or whether it's a sister or brother, or whether it's a mother or dad.
Yeah.
Your positivity will make the relationship much stronger. And keeping a positive attitude around the stroke patient is essential.
It's very true. Very true. Josh?
So I'll go. Always push forward. You could regret, but that, just looking back at what had happened before, and always look for resources, connect with community, listen to people, ask for advice. I keep reading, I keep watching videos, and also that you have a brand new body when you have a stroke.
Yeah.
And it's just an ongoing learning process, and it requires patience.
Yeah. Yeah. Deanna and Eddie, do you have any last final thoughts?
Read. Gain everything that you can. Make up here. Knowledge.
Yeah.
Like,
It's okay. It's okay. Think about it.
One thing is, don't ever give up and have a lot of patience.
yes.
And just don't ever give up. We're together for a reason. We'll always be together. And maybe the stroke made us stronger. Maybe it didn't. I couldn't tell you that for sure because we were always strong beforehand.
It did.
Okay,
It definitely did.
It did. But just keep pushing forward. There's no reason to give up. I'm actually very fortunate because Deanna has the most positive attitude of anyone I've ever met before. So she's the one who keeps me going.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And as Renee is writing a book called Love Each Other Through It, that should be everybody's essential motive for moving forward.
Yeah, it's in the process. But when I do it, I will send you both a copy before it goes to print, and I'd love for you to add your comments to it forward in the beginning, because yeah, it really is important to do exactly what you're doing, and I want to share with the world, something's going to happen in a marriage. It could be financially, it could be health, it could be a death, something is going to come up in your lives. And if you don't work together and communicate and love each other through it and do what these two couples are exemplifying, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. So we hope that before you decide to jump into marriage, that you have a conversation. Don't wait for it to get hard, because when it gets hard, it's almost like playing softball. I'll go my softball days. You practice, right? You have to practice for those games, and we have to talk about it. We have to educate ourselves on how to play the game. And life is a game, not a game like in a fun way, but life can be strategized like a game, and you have to practice and prepare for the game. And we hope that people, that are thinking about getting married or thinking about in any relationship, doesn't even need to be marriage. It could be, just a friend. You really need to take pride in your friendships. I will tell you that Jack Canfield, I always read a lot about him because I took his class and I love to follow him because he's a wonderful leader. He said that he only likes to have parties with about 10 or 12 people at each party, because he likes to be able to communicate with each guest he has. He doesn't want to have these big parties because they're all there and he can't have a relationship with them.
True.
He wants to get to know them and get to to have a conversation with them. And I met Wayne Dyer one time. I'll never forget. I went to see him at Jacob Javits by myself. I went into the city. I don't know what I was thinking, but and
you sat in the front row.
I sat in the front row. I'm telling you, God was with me. I sat in the front row, and all of a sudden he said, okay, I'm going to go down here to the side. This was many years ago. I'm going to go down here to the side, and I'm going to talk to everybody, meet everybody. I'm like, okay. I was the first one online, and I started to rattle off. I'm going to do a cabaret. I'm going to do this, that. And he goes, well, let me know. I would love to attend. Like just the fact that without hesitation, he was showing me his support in life. Played a big part. I mean, those little, and I knew he was never going to come, but just the fact that he showed me his support, I was like, okay, I could do this. And it is so important to support and love everybody shows each other. So we're so grateful to have each of you on the show. We can't wait to welcome you back. Judy's going to plan another show with both of you. And another one I want to do is to continue some conversation on insurance. We have been communicating with the White House on insurance, so they'll share that in another time. But we'd love to have you both join that parade too, because we're pushing. So we're going to have to go. We're about 12 minutes over, but sorry, we have so much to talk about all the time. So thank you so much for joining us today. And on 3, we always blow our kisses. Judy, you have anything you want to share before we go?
Only that they should think positive, and you touched on marriage. If you have a relationship, it's not just physical. It's caring. It's a big, important part. And it's just not just how the person looks, because you're both going to get older. And there are going to be triumphs and tragedies in a relationship. And you have to grow together and love each other so deeply that you'll help each other through it. You'll love each other through it.
Good ending, Judy.
Can't wait for your book.
On 3, we're going to go. 1, 2, 3. Blow our kisses. Bye, everybody.
God bless you all.
Have a blessed day.
God bless.
Mi amor, yo no entiendo. Yo no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que haré, yo no sé lo que estoy perdiendo, yo no sé lo que va a pasar. No me puedes escuchar, llorar solo sin ti, no me puedes oír llorar. El día que caminaste por la puerta, todas las memorias fueron. Mi corazón está vacío, como si tuviera ayer. No me puedes escuchar, llorar solo sin ti. Mi corazón está sufriendo. No me puedes escuchar, llorar solo sin ti. No me puedes oír llorar. Usted está en mi sueño por la noche. Por favor, no peleemos. Es tan difícil para mí y para ti. Yo, ¿qué puedo hacer? No me puedes escuchar, llorar solo sin ti. Mi corazón está sufriendo. No me puedes escuchar, llorar solo sin ti. No me puedes oír llorar. No me puedes escuchar, llorar solo sin ti. Mi corazón está sufriendo. No me puedes escuchar, llorar solo sin ti. No me puedes oír, no